What's up, Internet? Josh Zolin here, filling in for the great Rich Maliki, who apparently has some things that he's doing. I didn't really catch exactly what that was. Oh, yeah, he's just like the busiest person ever and just acquired a company in New York. So you get me today. I don't know if that's a good thing, that's a bad thing. I don't really care. I'm what you get. So welcome back to another episode of Fired Up with Rich Maliki, except sub in Josh Zolin. Thank you very much. I am here. Today. Lisa, what do we decide? We're going to talk a little bit about leadership.
But I just needed to comment that your swivel in was perfect.
Yep.
Love it. But
I was practicing that all weekend.
You wanted to talk about leadership. What does it really mean? And why is it rare?
Yeah, well, so leadership is something that I'm super passionate about, right? And my passion for it has changed over the years. I haven't been, morning Taz, I haven't been as passionate about it, all my life. But ever since I got into this role at Windy City and I started growing the company and I started bringing on people and, learning all aspects of the job, leadership was something that, I really started to appreciate in a different light, right? Because I was with the rest of the world a while ago, a long time ago, before I knew anything about it. And I thought leadership was, the typical, leading an army of 300 off the edge of a mountain bluff, because they said, or they heard you say go or whatever, and I think that's just the common assumption with leadership is that, it means one thing, and that's people listen to you when you give orders, right? Which unfortunately is not accurate, right? That's not the case. And anybody who's in leadership and who knows leadership really well will get exactly what I'm saying here. But it's one of those things, and especially in the Fed group, we've got a lot of leaders in the Fed group, a lot of business owners, a lot of technicians, a lot of people that value this subject. So I just thought it was a good time to talk about what it really means, as opposed to what people think it means. And like you said, Lisa, why it's so rare. We've all heard that narrative, right, of being a manager versus being a leader. And a manager is very different than a leader. A manager is there to manage processes, procedures, operations by facilitating, right? And saying, okay, you do this, you do that, you do this, but leadership is, there's a quote by General Colin Powell that I absolutely love. Leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible. So leadership is really about taking that next step, right? And getting people to understand, number one, why they're doing what they're doing, and more importantly, want to be doing what they're doing, right? And I think that's the biggest differentiator. Anybody can say, yeah, you do this, you do this, you do this. I have more power in you. I'm here on the hierarchy chart. You're here. You have to do what I say. But at the end of the day, that's not leadership. That's management, right? And so it's one of those things that that as you get older and as you get deeper into working with people and being in a position of authority, that you really start to understand a little bit better, why you're there and what it means. So, there's a lot to be said about it. I think one of the biggest things in our industry, and I'm just going to jump right into it, this whole thing is going to revolve around leadership, but talking about leadership or management that has never turned a wrench. I know Rich has touched on this a couple of times before, and there's a ton of opinions going back and forth. And I'm going to take a stance right now, and I'm going to defend those that have never turned a wrench, but are in a leadership or management position in the skilled trades industries or food equipment industries. And I want to point something out real quick. I turned wrenches, right? And so My background is I was in the field. I'm able to relate to the guys, and in my opinion, that has helped me. But as I've grown the company, and as I've gone from 10 employees to 20 employees to 50 and now almost 60 employees in the company, it got me to understand a little bit better why some of these other companies actually use management that has never turned a wrench, because it's a completely different skill set when you get to a certain level, right? And although turning that wrench does get you respect, there, because those skill sets are so different, it's very rare to be able to find somebody to manage a 300 person company, that started as a technician. Not to say that it's not possible. It absolutely is. And I have seen it quite a bit. But when you're talking about being able to grow and how quickly these companies grow, right? You need a certain skill set and you need it now. And so it takes a long time to develop these people in the field turning wrenches to get them to a position where they can be proficient at leading that many people. And that's just the bottom line. So, I know that there's a ton of mixed opinions on this. I'd love to hear some comments about what you guys think, is the best way. I know Rich has touched on this a little bit in the past, but, kind of wanted to have a different conversation about it, and see what everybody thought, with regard to turning wrenches and where that is in our industry.
I guess my question for you, Josh, would be, what would someone in leadership that has never turned a wrench, what would they have to do in order to earn respect?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think the first thing that they would have to do, and this kind of goes back to the original leadership discussion, right, is they would have to be humble, and they would have to have humility, and they'd have to come out first and foremost and say, I've never turned a wrench. I have no idea what it's like to be out there, and be completely transparent about that. Because if they try to pretend, or if they try to give the impression that they know more, or that they could know more, or that they're better than anybody else for whatever reason, that's immediately going to lose respect, right? So the best thing that they can do, in my opinion, is come out and say, hey, this isn't my forte. I'm here to help move our company forward. I'm here to, help those who need the help in the field, in the office, wherever that leadership is needed. But I think that it's tough. It's a tough conversation, right? Because people aren't good. They're going to be defensive, right? They're going to be apprehensive right away, right out the gate. Um, but as long as you can be transparent about that and just say, hey, this isn't my forte, this isn't something that I typically do, I'm here for another purpose, then at least you can start to swing that pendulum in the right direction.
So I have a comment here from Taz. He says, I have never turned a wrench. I think if you are building a team and you look around and they all think and act exactly like you, then you are missing a perspective somewhere. That is why I am always seeking understanding.
Ah, wise Taz. I love Taz. No, and he's absolutely right. That's always seeking understanding. That's part of our values here at Windy City is always seek to understand, never seek to respond. That's one of the things that, or I'm sorry, always listen to understand and not listen to respond. That's one of the things that that makes leadership great, right? Is being able to get the other person's perspective and understand what it is that they're saying, because to have that humility to know that there are things that you don't know is actually what's going to help you succeed in that position. So, a lot of things to be said on that. Any more comments out there, Lisa?
No, but I do have a question, and I know you've definitely spoken on this before in terms of your organization. But what are some things that you actually do to align everyone to have the same goals within Windy City?
That's hard.
It is.
Hard. Yeah, it's there's a few things that I do, but the main thing is, you have to get the leadership team on board, right? It's one thing to be able to cascade a message or a mission or a goal myself across the entire company. But when it always comes from me, that's just white noise, right? You need other people in the company to back up that goal, to back up that mission. So it starts with me, or starts with you, right, as the leader of the entire organization. Then it's got to cascade to your leadership team, right? Maybe a group of 4, 5, 6 people, and really get the buy-in from them. Really make sure that they understand the goal, they understand the mission, they understand where the entire company is going. Then after that third layer is the middle management, right? Then it's up to the executive team to get the middle management team on board, because they get the buy-in. Then the rest of the team gets the buy-in. All of their subordinates get the buy-in. And so that's the best way, I think, to cascade a goal or a mission of any organization. That's what's worked for me, anyways. I can't speak for what anybody else has done, but I'm always open to hearing some suggestions, because that is one of the most difficult things to do, even if you do it the way that I just said.
I'm going to bring in some comments here. First, one from Jesus. I could say that there is truth to that, being that there is so much for me to learn about the administration part that has nothing to do with turning wrenches. And we already know Jesus is turning a lot of wrenches.
Absolutely right, Jesus. And that's one of those things. I had to do that, right? I had no idea anything about the administration part when I was in the field. When it was just me and my dad turning wrenches, and that's where I got my start, right? Is just going out there and doing the work. I mean, I did that for probably about 10 years, before I really started to get my arms around the business, the administration part of it. And you got to start small, right? I mean, because there's things about invoicing that you don't know. There's things about dispatching that you don't know. There's things about quotes and estimates that you don't know, even though you're on the end of that in the field. Once that quote or estimate gets back to the office, it's a whole different ball game, because there are so many different procedures that have to be followed back there too. And then getting into the P&Ls and the balance sheets and all of the assets and liabilities. I mean, it is just a completely different world, and it takes time to learn. But you're absolutely right, Jesus. That's a good comparison.
Josh, you've got lots of comments coming in.
Oh boy.
So one from our main man, Jeff Victory. I do have to sidebar as well before I bring in this comment. Jeff, you have made it into Rich and Josh's Safesa intro for the talk, so I can't wait for you to see that.
Good job, Jeff.
What do you look for in a mentor, and where can you find them?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, Jeff, you didn't put your phone number, so I'm kidding, buddy. But no, you know what? Are you talking specifically for me, or are you talking for people to find mentors? Because the conversation's a little bit different. But if it were people looking for mentors, I'd say the biggest thing is, oh, sorry, you're just putting that up again. I'd say if it's somebody looking for a mentor, then the best thing that you can do is be persistent. You can find them anywhere. I mean, come on, in this day and age, social media, we talk about it all the time. That's probably the best place to find a mentor. I think the best position to be in the presence of a mentor is physical, is personal, so you can actually work with them side by side, see what they do, hear what they say, all of that kind of stuff. But in this day and age, social media, online presence, it makes it a whole lot easier to find a mentor. But persistence is the key, right? And when you're looking for one, never, ever, ever relent, and always. And here's the biggest thing, and this is what people struggle with the most, I think, is be willing to ask the stupid questions, right? Be willing to ask questions as if you were a child, right? That's how I always like to say it is, because that's what works with me. We had a kid here. His name's David. He came to us right after high school, right? He was like 18 years old, and I turned him away like 4 times because he was friends with my brother, and I mean, he's fine, but he was a young kid. I didn't really know much about him, but he didn't leave me alone. He wouldn't leave me alone. So I finally said, "All right, you can take out the trash, okay?" And so he started taking out the trash, but he was the best trash taker outer I have ever had. It was fantastic, right? So then he started running parts, right? And that came to be because he heard me on the phone one day saying, "Oh, geez, you forgot the part." I was talking to a technician, right? And he was like, "I'll bring it. I'll bring it." So I was like, "Okay, go ahead." So he started running parts, and that led to him being in the PM department, right? Because he just kept doing more and wanting more and getting more. And now he's actually leading his own install team here.
Wow.
And it's been, I think that was 4 years ago. So in the matter of 4 years, he went from taking out the trash to leading his own install crew.
Initiative is truly a quality that I value most in people.
Yeah.
I absolutely love initiative, and that's actually a really incredible story. Of in 4 years, him going from the trash guy.
Yeah. I still make him take out trash sometimes.
So Jeff also added, closed-minded vision is tough to get others on board. Leadership needs to get buy-in from ground up to execute properly.
Yes, that's a good point.
And so then Chris asks, what is a quality you look for in your management team?
Ooh, that's a good question. See, the biggest quality I would look for in my management team is probably humility. Like I talked about before. So me and big egos, we don't really get along.
Mm.
And if it's, whether it's in business or whether it's outside, I've always been pretty humble. I like to humble brag every once in a while. That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the really big egos, and I can deal with some of them when they can complement it with a certain amount of humility, right? Because there are some people that will say that they are the best at one thing, and then they'll turn around and admit, right, that they're terrible at another. So that kind of balances it out. But that humility is super necessary in a management position because there's just so much that we don't know, and I've brought enough people into this organization. I've brought enough people up in this organization to understand that there's always something to learn. And so that's the biggest thing that I look for.
So Michael Cinto, thanks Rich and Josh for always teaching and sharing your experiences with our industry. From Mike and the team at Total Food.
Mike, you are very welcome. Thank you for allowing us to. I'm not going to speak for Rich, but I think he would say thank you as well.
You would most certainly. I'll speak for Rich. I get to speak for
Perfect. Exactly. That's why you're here, Lisa. You speak for Rich.
So JR says, you made a good point in the difference in leadership at a certain level, referring to a 60-man team. What changes at that level? Could you expand on the challenges with a team of 30 plus that you have experienced?
Oh, so many challenges, JR. Yeah, it's tough. So many of the things that change, and I can only speak for my organization, right? I can't speak for any other organization, but one of the things that I found is that as you're growing and as you're going through, and I experienced this myself, right? We had a team of like 6 at one point, 6 people. We were all technicians. We were all in the field, including myself, but we would share different duties. So like I was in the field, but I would also take phone calls, and somebody else was in the field and they would also do dispatching. And, somebody else was in the field and they'd also input all of the invoices and stuff into, our accounting system. And I had this in my head, this vision that, okay, these 6 people are going to be the future of this company. These 6 people are going to be who's running the company. When we have 60 employees, when we have 100, when we have 200, these are the people. And one of the things that you learn is that the company can very much outgrow the people in it and the skill sets that are required, right? And that's kind of what we experienced. Of those 6 people, the only 2 that are left in the company are me and my dad. And the rest of them, unfortunately, had to move on. And some of that was my fault. Some of that was their fault, in responding to situations differently. But when you start to get into those bigger teams, 30, 40, 50, 60, it's your systems and processes have got to be on point because everything is compounded. Everything is way more complex. I once saw a graph, and I don't have it with me, but there's a graph, excuse me, about complexity. So when there's one person in the organization, there's one dot, right? And then there's 2 people in the organization, there's 2 dots and an arrow going back and forth. But you add 3, right? So now you have 3 people in the organization. Now you have 3 different arrows, right? Going each direction. And every time you add a person, that complexity changes more and more and more and more. So you have to find ways to mitigate, number one, the hierarchy, the chain of command, and more so the systems and processes. Because what used to be a 1 or 2 step process that you just had in your head now becomes a 47-step process, right? Because you're using bigger software and you've got bigger customers, and all these customers have their own procedures that you have to follow. And now we're seeing all these third party, FMMS platforms, right? The service channels, the Corrigos, the EcoTracks, they all have their own procedures to follow. So it really is about creating these, first of all, these layers of hierarchy, so you can make sure that the teams within those layers are executing the procedures that they have properly. But it is definitely a challenge if you've never done it before.
So another comment, it's from Facebook user. I love when we get Facebook user comments, but really the only reason this comes up is because the person has to allow StreamYard to access their profile to leave a comment within the Fed group on Facebook. But anyway, like I always say, it's really not what you know. It's how one learns the unknown, troubleshoots, and applies the experience and knowledge.
Yes, Facebook user.
It was Quentin.
Quentin. Yes, that makes sense. Quentin, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's what I go back to, there's that saying, knowledge is power. It's knowledge plus action is power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what that means is, knowledge is one thing, but it's completely meaningless if you don't learn from it and actually apply it into what you're doing and to your circumstances. So yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's not always what you know, it's how you learn what you don't and then how you apply that.
So I know you had a third point that you wanted to bring up, but this leadership talk is always very popular.
Yes.
Everyone has opinions on this discussion. But did you want to touch on how a rep can expedite a service call?
Yeah, sure. I think this came from a comment in the Fed group last week, right?
From Janelle, I believe.
Janelle. Yes, I believe it was Janelle. And her question was exactly that. How can a rep help to expedite a service call? And it got a ton of engagement, a lot of great opinions and great people chiming in to offer up their experience. I didn't get a chance to read all the comments, but some of them I did, and they were really great. So I think it boils down to a couple of things, right? The question is, how can a rep help to expedite a service call? And first and foremost, I think setting the expectations with your customer, realistic expectations with whoever you sold the piece of equipment to, is key. And you are completely in control of that. And the service company will appreciate that beyond anything else, because, the thing that gets to us the most is that we always get made out to be the bad guys, right? We're always the one at fault. It's always, the provider didn't get there. Oh, they said this and now you're not following through. And so setting expectations is incredibly important, right? And so that's the first step, realistic expectations with the customer. then the second step is building that relationship with the service provider, and really we can take this all the way back to the leadership conversation. Ask questions, right? Don't dictate anything. Always ask questions. And I think that is the biggest thing. And I'm not talking about questions like leading questions like, why the hell did you do this? Or who the hell do you think you are? I'm talking about actual earnest questions like, hey, is there any chance that we could do this service call by X date, and why or why not? Right. And actually let them respond back to Taz's point, right? Where he's chiming in again, realistic expectations. Exactly. But that's back to Taz's point, listen to understand, right? So if a service provider is telling you something, it's not in your benefit to argue with them. It's not in your benefit to tell them that they are wrong. It's not in your benefit to tell them any of these things. They're the experts and you need to rely on them. So if you're going to ask them a question, let them respond. That will help build the relationship, right? And then yeah, that might mean going back to your customer and recalibrating, resetting those expectations. And over time, you'll learn kind of where that sweet spot is, because at the end of the day, you want to please them. Service company wants to please them. Everybody wants to please everybody, right? It's win-win-win all the way around. And that's the ideal situation that we're always trying to accomplish. So, those are just a couple of tips I have on how a rep can help to expedite a service call. But at the end of the day, boils down to relationships.
Awesome. Josh, you're killing it on this takeover.
Oh, I blacked out. I don't know what happened. No.
That's what Rich says. You just black out when you go live. I had no expectations for how these takeovers were going to go. This was such a last minute idea with the acquisition of Service Masters and Rich not being available. But honestly, I think it's going surprisingly well. You and Taz are both killing it. So hopefully
come on, don't be surprised. And you got Jeff Victory coming up too eventually, right? On the 30th, I think.
The 30th? Oh yeah, you remember.
Yes. Yeah, steel trap. Except for I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but everything else is steel trap. No, this is fantastic. And you know what? A shout out to Rich, big shout out to Rich, because this is the type of network that he's built. Is he's got guys like me, Taz, Jeff that can step in, at a moment's notice and take over, because why? We believe in the mission. We believe in Fed. We believe in FedCon 2022, which I'm hoping that I'm seeing everybody there. I want all 1,000 people in the Fed group to be there. Is that too much to ask?
Not possible. There are only 200 tickets.
No, we're gonna have to do something about that, Lisa. I want all 1,000 people there. Okay? You want to write that down?
Maybe the next one.
Okay.
The next one in 2024, it'll be 1,000. Wow, that would be huge. But Leslie says yes, relationships and realistic expectations. Boom.
Boom, Leslie. Boom.
So yeah, do you have any closing thoughts for your fired up takeover, Josh?
No, I just want to thank the entire Fed group, for being so awesome, and allowing me to actually have a platform like this. And actually, it's a big thanks to Rich too, because it's his fired up. I'm just I'm just here. But no, the only other thing I want to plug is the FedCon 2022. Again, really want as many people there as possible. Gonna have some awesome speakers. First and foremost, me, right? I'm going to be speaking. So,
yes.
Yeah, I don't know about these other guys. Ryan McCarty from the Culture of Good, Mark Schulman, the drummer. They seem okay, but really, you got to come for me.
Yeah, Ryan McCarty, the drummer from Pink, the Mark Schulman, he seems all right. All right.
No, in all seriousness, those guys seem super awesome. It's going to be an awesome time. I can't wait to hear them talk. I can't wait to see everybody there, right in my own backyard, which is nice. I can save on travel.
You're saving on travel both for Cefesa and for FedCon.
I know, it's amazing. Except for Sapessa, I still got to hike way out west.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But I guess it's fine.
Are you staying in a hotel for Sapessa too, or no?
No.
Drive home. Gotcha. All right. So just two more comments here. Jesus says, great takeover. For there are so many people as myself just scraping off the genesis of a company with real or fake expectations that can be helped by wisdom shared as you guys do. Dang.
Thanks, Jesus. We got to get you on the podcast, buddy.
Yeah, you definitely should have him on Blue is the New White.
Yeah.
Your podcast for anyone who's has never heard of it, which would be surprising.
Yes, Blue is the New White podcast. Look it up. It's really awesome, especially the host. I hear he's really good looking. But no, definitely anybody, if anybody is interested in the Fed group or outside the Fed group, whoever's watching this right now, I have all types of people on the show as far as tradespeople and advocates of the trades, haters of college. Everybody's welcome. It's meant to provide a platform for people to share their success in hopes of generating intrigue around the skilled trades industries, and really putting this wonderful industry of ours up on a pedestal and letting people know that, hey, it's okay if you don't want to go to college. It's okay if you want to get into the trades. Not only that, it's can be a hell of a lot more lucrative too, depending on how you play it and which route you go. So definitely check it out and message me if you want to be on the show.
Awesome. And then I think you guys have one more thing to plug. The XOI.
Yes. XOI. It's this Thursday, the 23rd, I believe it is, the XOI webinar.
Yes.
Rich and I will be there. They have us listed as hosts, but I think Amanda is going to do most of the talking from XOI. But
Okay.
great opportunity to see what XOI is all about, see how it's actually used. And I talk a lot about it. I know Rich talks a lot about it, but at the end of the day, look, it really did change my business for the better. We just talked about processes and procedures and adding different layers and things like that. And XOI was absolutely pivotal in how I run my operation, and especially with remote locations and things like that. So if you get a chance, maybe we can put the link out somewhere again. I'll post it again, but you can find it on my LinkedIn or Facebook.
And Rich's LinkedIn and all over.
Yeah, it should be everywhere. But definitely check it out. Webinar on Thursday for XOI.
Awesome. And then tomorrow we will have Rich back for a Fired Up. He will be fired up with FSX Marketplace. So that will be awesome as well. And Corey also says, Rich, Josh, and XOI, let's go.
Oh, and you know what, Lisa, I've been thinking about it, and I might just steal this background and do a hostile takeover.
Ooh.
And, yeah, so I don't know, whether or not Rich is going to get another opportunity on Fired Up. We'll just have to see. We might have to fight. I told him the other week that I wanted to see him fight. So
yes, you did. You did mention that in a comment.
And then Taz is talking about Alabama boy truck something or other. What did he say?
Yes. It was the
truck party.
Truck party. Yes.
It was a truck party.
Arkansas.
Arkansas. I say Alabama.
Yes.
Arkansas. Yeah.
But awesome. So Josh, again, thank you so much for taking over this Fired Up. Everyone loves you. We love you at the Fed Group.
I love the Fed Group.
So I guess goodbye for now.